Imagine it is 1962. You're in Tezpur, which is this Indian frontier town, and like absolute panic has just completely set in. The local government is throwing open the prison doors.
Yeah, they are literally burning the currency reserves right in the streets.
Right, because Chinese forces just punched through the border defenses and are sitting, what, barely 50 kilometers away.
Exactly. Barely 50 kilometers.
So to figure out how this highly localized panic triggered a global chain reaction, we're doing a deep dive today into the 1962 India-China border war. And our mission today is really answering one central question. Why do different countries react completely differently to the exact same conflict?
Well, when you look at the international reactions to this specific crisis, it becomes a masterclass, really. It shows how geography, ideology, and pure national interest just absolutely dictate foreign policy.
Yeah, I mean, Chinese troops are advancing, India is panicking, and immediately the West just freaks out. Like, the US and UK start airdropping weapons. The US even sends a Navy aircraft carrier toward the Bay of Bengal.
Oh, and the paranoia was real. You had U.S. Defense Secretary Robert McNamara actually advising President Kennedy to consider using nuclear weapons.
Wait, nuclear weapons over a border dispute?
Yeah, because they didn't just see a localized border dispute, you know.
Yeah.
They saw the first domino falling in a massive global communist takeover. I mean, Mao Zedong had this chilling quote at the time saying, the way to world conquest lies through Havana, Accra, and Calcutta.
Oh, wow. That is intense. But India was famously non-aligned. Like, they explicitly refused to take sides in the Cold War. It's almost like saving a neighbor who explicitly refused to join your neighborhood watch just because you really hate the guy breaking into their house.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. So why write a blank check to a country that absolutely refuses to ally with you?
Simply because containing China completely outweighed India's neutrality. It was just pure strategic calculation.
Okay, so they didn't care about the non-aligned status.
Not at all. Washington and London realized that if India fell, the whole balance of power in Asia collapsed. So they offered massive, crisis-driven cooperation without ever demanding India sign a loyalty pledge.
But there is a glaring paradox here when you look at the sources. The West rushes in, but India's actual ideological peers, the non-aligned nations, are suddenly nowhere to be found.
It was a brutal reality check. You would really expect countries like Egypt, Burma, or Sri Lanka to rally behind their fellow non-aligned founder.
Exactly.
But instead, only the United Arab Republic explicitly supported India. The rest held this meeting in Colombo, and they offered to mediate but refused to actually condemn China.
Wait, if the whole point of their movement was solidarity against imperialism, why ghost India when a massive army is literally at the gates?
Fear and economics, mostly. China was a rising aggressive military power right in their backyard. Many of these newly independent nations simply couldn't afford to antagonize Beijing.
So mediation definitely isn't the same thing as military support.
Not even close. It taught India a really harsh lesson. Diplomatic idealism and shared principles mean absolutely nothing if you don't have the military capability to defend yourself.
Wow. So the West's massive arms dump into India solves the immediate crisis, but then it instantly creates a domino effect right next door because Pakistan is watching all of this happen.
Oh, and they were terrified. Prior to this, Pakistan had actually proposed a joint defense pact with India against China.
Wait, really? A joint defense pact?
Yeah. But seeing massive amounts of advanced Western weaponry pouring into India just completely spooked them.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're Pakistan, watching the U.S. arm your historic rival is like watching your best friend hand a loaded shotgun to your worst enemy.
Precisely. Suddenly, cozying up to China isn't just opportunistic, it's basic survival. That fear drove Pakistan into a strategic partnership with Beijing.
And they signed a border treaty, right?
They did in 1963, even ceding some territory to China. This newly forged China-Pakistan axis emboldened Pakistan so much that it ultimately triggered the Second Kashmir War just a few years later.
That is wild. But hold on. I'm looking at these archives, and the USSR eventually steps in to rebuild India's defense industry with MiG-21 jets. But the USSR and China are both communist. Why wouldn't Moscow back Beijing against a US-armed India?
It seems totally counterintuitive until you look at the mechanics of the Sino-Soviet split.
Right, the big falling out.
Exactly. Basically, the two biggest communist bullies on the bloc were suddenly fighting each other for dominance. Moscow wanted to keep China in check just as much as Washington did.
Oh, I get it. So when the U.S. hesitated to sell India more advanced jets in 1964, the Soviets just swooped in.
Yep, they made India their own counterweight to China.
It's incredible. brief border war completely rewired the global map. It proves that in foreign policy, alliances are temporary, but national interests are permanent.
Completely. And it forged the geopolitical dynamics we see today, like the China-Pakistan partnership and India's historical reliance on Moscow for defense.
Which leaves you with something really fascinating to think about. When you see India today taking a heavily scrutinized, multi-aligned stance on modern conflicts, buying Russian oil while simultaneously partnering with the U.S. military, ask yourself something.
Is it just fence sitting?
Exactly. Or is it the learned survival mechanism of a nation that realized back in 1962 that when the prison doors fly open and the enemy is at the gates, relying on ideology alone is a fatal mistake?